The Detroit Lions had a confusing but fantastic season in 2022. They started off the year 1-6, but went on an 8-2 run to finish the season, all while eliminating their longtime rivals, the Greenbay Packers and Aaron Rodgers, out of the playoffs. While they may not have made the playoffs, the Lions have a lot of potential in 2023. But before I do get into this video, make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated, helps me out more than you can see. Now, let's get right into why the Lions will win the NFC North. 2022 was special. The Lions showed promise. Jared Goff had a fully healthy bounce-back season where he ranked top 20 in PFF grade, 4th in DVOA, and had spectacular box score stats as well. Goff was not the only player to show out. Amon-Ra St. Brown proved to be a star in his second season with over 100 catches and 1,100 yards. Then there was head coach Dan Campbell. He showed he's worth following as a coach with that second half run. His leadership is undoubtedly at the top of the coaches in the league. His X's and O's may not be top tier, but his leadership style makes players want to fight for him. Outside of the Sun God, the receiving group left room to be desired. The second leading receiver was Khalif Raymond with 616 yards, and it's not like Goff only targeted St. Brown, as he had 4,400 yards and there were 4 other players with 50 plus targets. Goff just spread the ball around. There was not much talent outside of Amon-Ra anyways. But we will get to one guy later. The running game was great, as they were top 3 in touchdowns, almost completely because Jamal Williams had 17 touchdowns. DeAndre Swift had some big runs, but he cannot figure out how to run north and south. He's an east-west type of runner, which can be problematic at times. And the best part of the offense? The offensive line. My God, there are some monsters on that line. You got tackles Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker. You got Frank Ragnow, who are all very, very good offensive linemen. Their guards definitely need some improvement. Jonah Jackson did make the Pro Bowl in 2021, but did not perform up to those expectations in 2022. Evan Brown was just not good, honestly. If they could fix up the guards, the offensive line will be scarier than it is right now. Very hard to believe. The offense was 5th in DVOA, 5th in points, and 3rd in yards. So great numbers for the team, and they also passed the eye test for most of the season, outside of a couple games. The defense was a very bad unit. They allowed the most yards, 3rd most points, and were only average in sacks and pressures. The second half of the year, the group did look better. Nevertheless, still not an amazing side of the ball for the Lions. Even though they were terrible for most of the year, there were some young future studs on that defense. Rookies Aiden Hutchinson and Kirby Joseph were both selected in the top 100 and showed tons of promise as future stars in the league. Hutchinson fell to the Lions at 2, when he clearly should have been the number 1 pick, and it was an amazing pick for a guy that will terrorize opposing tackles and quarterbacks in coverage for the next decade. Yes, I said in coverage. He had 3 interceptions. They also did very well in the later rounds, grabbing linebacker Malcolm Rodriguez and edge James Houston. Rodriguez had some great highlight plays, but still had some issues at times as well. But then there was James Houston, who was a dog. In very minimal snaps, 140 to be exact, he had 17 pressures, 7 tackles for loss, and 8 sacks. He had multiple sacks in 2 games, absolutely disrupting offensive linemen and pressuring the quarterback very often. Houston will be the primary edge rusher on the opposite side of Aiden Hutchinson, who had 9.5 sacks and 3 picks, like I said, in his first year. They're both very young, at 22 and 24 right now. While their defense was not great all this year, these young studs will continue to improve. Their secondary was easily the worst part of the defense by far, with all of the corners, for the most part, struggling. Jeff Okudah, the 3rd overall pick back in 2020, had a weird season as the team's number 1 corner. He started off very strong, looked top 10, then fell off horribly in the back half of the year. The exact opposite as the rest of the defense. There was also Jerry Jacobs, who had a few decent games at the end of the season, but overall, did not play too well. I bet many are wondering, why are the Lions going to win the NFC North? They had such a historically bad defense last year, and their offense didn't have many receiving weapons. Easy explanation. This offseason has been amazing to the Lions on both sides of the ball. Even though they lost some pieces, like Jamal Williams, the NFL's rushing touchdown leader, who signed with New Orleans to be a part of a 1-2 punch with Kamara, cornerback Mike Hughes, guard Evan Brown, which is not a loss, and linebacker Chris Board. GM Brad Holmes made up for those losses. Their biggest offensive move was signing running back David Montgomery, former Chicago Bear, to pair with DeAndre Swift, who has been very productive at times in his career. Montgomery is a more well-rounded back than Jamal Williams, who is actually a terrible receiving back. So adding him along with Swift already being there will make Goff's check-down options elite. They also brought back guard center Graham Glasgow, who Detroit drafted, but he signed with Denver after his rookie contract ended. He played his best ball in Detroit, so let's hope he can come back after a down year with the Broncos. Their offensive moves were good, will help the team shore up the run game with Jamal leaving and the guard position being weak. But the moves they made on defense are the reason they're going to win this division. The first move is actually an in-house move. It's Tracy Walker coming back from an Achilles. His last healthy season, Walker was a decent safety for Detroit, and teaming up with Kirby Joseph will only help him in the back end of the secondary. They also brought back Alex Anzalone at linebacker, who is a solid player, but for 2 years, $11 million, it's a steal considering what players like Tremaine Edmonds, who's very overrated, got this offseason. Their new defensive signings were the most important though. First, they brought in 2 corners who are very underrated. Cameron Sutton from Pittsburgh for 3 years, $33 million, and Emmanuel Mosley from San Francisco for 1 year, $6 million. Sutton proved to be a great corner last season with Pittsburgh, and Mosley only played 5 games, but at times has been a pretty decent coverage guy. Those two would join Jerry Jacobs and the potential of Jeff Okudah to finally create a pretty decent cornerback group that they really needed. But that wasn't their only move in the secondary. They also brought in one of, if not the most versatile defensive back, CJ Gardner-Johnson, for 1 year and $8 million. Chauncey's coming off a year where he was one of the best safeties in the league, finishing with 6 interceptions. And it wasn't just a safety. He plays in the slot, in the box, and at deep safety. He will bring that amazing versatility and elite play style to defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn's defense, which is much needed, and this improvement in the secondary is outstanding, especially at such a discount for CJ Gardner-Johnson. Taking a flyer on him for 1 year will be worth every penny when he shows the NFC North how scary it is to play against him. The improvement in the secondary is the most important move the team has made in years. For a unit that had the worst coverage grade on PFF, the 3rd most yards, being that aggressive in free agency, signing all 3 of those guys, shows how Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell know that they can win this division. With those upgrades, the defense becomes an average unit at worst. That is all that a 9-8 team needs to win 11 plus games and win the NFC North. And don't worry, this is also alongside a powerful offense that has so much untapped potential. And why is that? It's because they have wide receiver Jamison Williams, who was electric in college before his injury, come back fully healthy and not just barely play, but be the wide receiver too, and he will be scary because he is fast and he's got bursts on his routes like no other. The Lions have done everything right. Their division is becoming weaker as Aaron Rodgers is set to leave for New York, the Vikings got worse on defense, and the Bears exist. That's why they saw this opportunity and they seized it. They have an easy path to winning the NFC North, but their roster is built for more than just winning a probably weak division. Detroit can do something in the postseason if everything goes right. I'm personally excited to watch them dominate the NFC North for the first time in what seems like my lifetime, and Dan Campbell will lead this group to heights that Lions fans would never have expected, and that is all thanks to him and Brad Holmes' moves this offseason. And with all that being said, that is for me, guys. Thank you for tuning into Fanatic Sports. If you made it this far in the video, come on, just give it a like and subscribe to the channels. All support is very much appreciated, helps me out more than you know. Also, follow the Instagram at FanaticSports25 and Twitter and TikTok at Fanatic Sports. This is Joe of Fanatic Sports, signing off.